Okay.
Namaste and a warm welcome to everyone. My name is Rupal Chauhan and I am currently a final year student of MA Yoga Shastra and will be the host for the day. We are delighted to have you join us for today's Yoginar, a Kaivalya Dham initiative where we spread authentic yogic knowledge through broadcast. As per the tradition of Kaivalya Dham, let's start this session with the Shanti part. I request everyone to please sit upright. Gently close their eyes. Join their hands in Namaskar Mudra in front of their chest. Focus on their breath. And with the next inhalation, we'll chant the mantra. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. You may gently release your hands and slowly open your eyes. Yoginar is an exceptional opportunity to connect with renowned scholars and seekers from across the globe, fostering meaningful discussions and deeper insights into yoga philosophy and practice. Now, I would like to introduce our esteemed speaker, Shri Sudhir Tiwari ji. His journey in yoga began under the guidance of Swami Digambar ji, a disciple of Swami Kavalanand ji, and his father, Dr. Om Prakash Tiwari ji. His vision to present yoga not merely as a set of asanas, but as a holistic and experiential practice that includes yamas, niyamas, asana, pranayama, meditative techniques, mantra chanting, and Ishwar Pranidhana, as described by Sage Patanjali. Today, Sudhir ji travels across the globe conducting workshops that combine theory and practice of asana, traditional pranayama, meditation, chanting, and Ayurveda. With his knowledge of alternative Western medicine, he also bridges and correlates these disciplines. At Kaivalya Dham, he leads the 3-year pranayama teacher training course, nurturing sincere practitioners and teachers. His guiding mantra is Breathe Positive, Breathe Yoga. For today's Yoginar, the topic of today's session is Pranayama Essentials. We are honored to have with us Shri Sudhir Tiwari ji as our faculty. We will first listen to his wisdom, followed by a practical session. Towards the end, we will have time for question and answers. For those joining us online, you may type your questions in the comment box. For participants joining us on site, you will have the opportunity to ask your question directly. With great respect and anticipation, let us now welcome Sudhir Tiwari ji for today's Yoginar on Pranayama Essentials. Thank you, sir.
So, namaskar, everyone. Good morning and greetings to you, for those of you who are here attending live. And for those of you who are online, greetings. The session's going to be in 3 phases or 3 stages. We're going to have some conversation in the beginning. Then the next would be pranayama practice. And the concluding phase would be Q&As if there are any. So for those of you who are joining online, please make your space where you are practice friendly, keeping in mind or bearing in mind that yoga is an experiential practice. It is not a mechanical practice. So, on your mat, for the duration of your practice, online and live in this room, please consider yourself to be a sannyasi on the mat only. So that should be the attitude with which one should practice. Secondly, I know that for those of you who are here and for some of you who are online, you all are pranayama practitioners. So a lot would be a repetition for you. But the purpose of this session is not to teach you pranayama, because I'm pretty sure most of you know how to practice pranayama because it's a part of your curriculum. But the main purpose of this session is to reinstate, to reorient ourselves in Kevaladham lineage. Just to have more clarity on what our lineage is and what it stands for. And that's what I'm going to be talking about briefly. Then we'll go on to the pranayama essentials, and then we'll go into the practice session. I normally don't like to talk about myself much, but I think when we talk about lineage, I would like to tell you a little bit of my story also. I was raised in Kevaladham, right here. And I spent the first 26 years of my life in Kevaladham. And when I was growing up, there weren't as many buildings. There were basically 5 or 6 main buildings. You had the library. Then there was one building, a classroom right next to the scientific research department. There was the scientific research department. There was the main office building, and then there was ashrama and the kuti. And 2 hostels, that was it. So growing up as kids, maybe 5, 6 years old, we were in the company of some of the great teachers from Kevaladham itself. You had, of course, Swami Digambarji, you had Dr. Gharote, Dr. Bholesh, Dr. Sridharji, Dr. Ganguly. We grew up, and some of the teachers then came later. So they all had kids. So we all went to school, especially during rainy season. After you come back from school, you don't have much to do. So what do? So we always had there were 2 courses that Kevaladham did at that time. One was a 6-week course, and one was a 9-month course. So we as kids used to join asana sessions. Just like kids, you go, students are practicing asanas, we start doing the asanas. We used to go to the classroom where theory was being taught. We did not understand a word of what was being said. Philosophy, 5, 6 years old, what could you understand? But we just sat there. And that was the beginning of our and my informal yoga education. Same thing, Swami Digambarji used to do puja, havan and puja, and we used to go there, so we grew up with those mantras. That was and formally in 1980, I did the teacher training course out of Kevaladham. In 1989, I moved abroad. I moved to the US, and then in 2000, I moved to Canada. That's where I live right now. But outside of Kevaladham, outside of India is where I really understood or realized the true value of Kevalada. Because I was teaching outside, I was attending yoga classes outside, but it wasn't the same. There was such a commercial aspect to yoga. Everything was asana-centric. Asana, physical, glorifying the body. Is that yoga? Glorification of the body? Is that yoga? No. As I said, it's an experiential practice. And that's when I look deeper into our lineage. Keep in mind, yoga is taught everywhere. There are so many fine schools all around the world, even within India, which teach yoga. How is our lineage different from them? So keep in mind, whenever there are authentic and authoritative texts that are written, there is a reason behind that. For example, we have Hatha Pradipika, Ghiran Samhita, Shiva Samhita, Vashishta Samhita, Yoga Vashishta, Gorakshatak. All these texts have been composed, say 200 and 300 years apart. And there's a reason for that. And perhaps there are two reasons. One was to adapt to the change in times, because our scenario in India was changing because of the invasions from outside. So if you look, Hatha Pradipika has fewer practices than Ghiran Samhita. Even the permutation and combination of kriyas in Ghiran Samhita is much more than Hatha Pradipika. Why is that? So perhaps one of the reasons was to adapt to the changes in society, adapt to the stress levels that the society was facing. And then second one, Swatmaram mentions it in Hatha Pradipika in the first chapter itself. Bhrantya bahumatatvante. Can anyone complete that? Raja yogam na janatam Hatha Pradipika dhatte Swatmarama krupakaraha. So Swatmaram acknowledges that yoga has been diluted, misrepresented, and hence by people who have no idea about what yoga is. And for that reason alone, I am writing the text of Hatha Pradipika. So this happened every 200-300 years. You see a text being written, perhaps to make a correction. Because sometimes every teacher, no fault of their own, add their personality to the teaching. And at some point, the teaching perhaps gets diluted, and hence there is a need for correction. And the same correction happened in 1924. Even within India, yoga was being diluted. Of course, in the West, asanas started to be called stretching exercises. Pranayama was called deep breathing. In India, especially in the styles that come from south of India, they brought gymnastics into yoga. They brought physiotherapy into yoga. Concept of alignment into yoga. Nothing wrong with that. However, the message got diluted because the basic principles of yoga were violated. And hence, someone needed to make a correction. And the person who made that correction was none other than Swami Kuvalyanandaji. Picture somewhere? You can see. So what did he bring? What was his idea behind creating this institute? Behind finding this institute? If you go back to the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, What do you think Patanjali's biggest contribution is? Anyone? Feel free. Make it conversational, make it informal. What is Patanjali's contribution to you? Pardon me? Very good. That's one of, he organized it. Who's that? Raise your hand. Very good. What is his second contribution? Very good. Very good. So you got into a very good point. When it comes to practice, what was his contribution? Yes, very good. Asana pranayam, what was his contribution? So if you look at the sutras carefully, number one, he defined the practice. Sthir sukham asanam tasmin sati swasha prashvasa yorgati vichcheda pranayam. Then he gave a technique, prayatna shaithilya ananta samapatibhyam. That's the technique. Bahayabhyantar stambha vrittir desha kal sankhya paridushto dirgha shukma bahayabhyantara vishayakshepi chaturtaha. Based on the definition and the technique, then he gave us the outcome. Tato dvandvan abhighataha tatah kshiyate prakashavaranam dharana sucha yogyataha manasa. So he gave us the definition of the practice, a general technique as to how the practice needs to be done, and if the practice is done as per the definition and as per the technique, then Patanjali said, this is the result you should expect out of the practice. That is one of his biggest contributions. Because that laid a path for the yogis of the later, Hatha yogis of the later, yogis in general of the later, to create a specific protocol. So if you look at Hatha Pradipika, or you look at Ghiran Samhita, they talk about the asana, pranayam, techniques, and benefits. Right? Now, in the 6th or 7th century, those benefits were validated based on the medical system that was available then. And the system of medicine that was available then to us was Ayurveda. However, in the 20th century, we had modern medicine available. So what did Swamiji do? Swamiji said, based on the protocol originally laid out by Patanjali, followed by the yogis of the later times, I would validate the results of the practice based on scientific experimentation. So if they say tato dvandvan abhighataha, or if Hatha Pradipika says hathasya prathamangatva asanam purvamuchyate kuryat tadasanam sthairyam arogyam changalaghavam. If the text says asanas remove diseases, can that be validated scientifically? He validated it. Right? Or pranayamena yuktena sarvaroga kshayo bhavet. By practicing pranayam, we can get rid of all the diseases. So he validated it scientifically. Everyone with me so far? But tell me one thing, okay, I would do an asana or I would do a pranayam. How do I know that the technique I'm using for that pranayam is valid? Because I don't want to create a technique. I can invent thousands of techniques. Would that be valid? So where do these techniques come from? The practices that you do, pranayam, where do the techniques come from? Text, very good. Now how do you interpret the text? Because texts that we have available are from the manuscripts that we had at that time. The manuscripts had to be decoded. Some of the manuscripts were complete, some were not complete. So if I am doing a scientific research on a practice, I need to know how to do that practice correctly. I cannot invent the technique. There has to be a validated technique that has been mentioned in the text. I have texts were written in Sanskrit. They were derived from the manuscripts. Some manuscripts complete, some manuscripts incomplete. That means in order to support the scientific research, philosophical research had to be done. And hence, Swamiji's initial step was to create a scientific research department supported by a philosophical research department. Otherwise, so many people are teaching so many things. People are teaching Bhastrika like this. Where does that technique come from? Do you have any textual reference? No. So I'm not criticizing them. What I'm trying to say is, Swamiji gave us a structure that every single student of Kevaladham needs to be proud of. He gave us an organized structure, because I've been teaching for a long time, formally and informally. And what I have seen is just mostly for commercial sakes, mostly for getting customers, people have twisted and diluted the practice. Kevaladham's goal is not that. So for that reason, I normally say, our lineage lies within the dimensions of realm of three texts. One is Asana by Swami Kuvalanandaji. The second one is Pranayama by Swami Kuvalanandaji. And the third one is Yogic Therapy by Swami Kuvalanandaji. And the reason I say that is because these three texts are written upon referencing more than 10 authentic and authoritative yogic texts. So the practices that we do, the practices that we shall be doing, are based on these texts, because the techniques that Swami Kuvalanandaji has presented, they are based on solid scientific evidence, as well as when it comes to the technique, they are very complete, comprehensive techniques based on the text. I give you a small example. For example, Shitali Pranayama. The technique of Shitali Pranayama is perhaps not complete in Hatha Pradipika. So Swamiji relied on Shiva Samhita to extract the technique of Shitali. For example, Brahmari Pranayama, the technique in Ghiran Samhita where you close your eyes with Shanmukhi Mudra is not complete. Because in Ghiran Samhita, they ask you to listen to the sound. They don't talk about creating a sound. Whereas in Hatha Pradipika, they say when you inhale, it's a male sound. When you exhale, it's a female sound. So he chose the techniques which can be validated. He did not dream of them. He did not create it out of his imagination. He sourced them from the text. So that is something to keep in mind. Everyone okay so far? So that is why I normally encourage, even the courses that I do overseas, whether it's 1-year pranayam TT, 3-year pranayam TT, or a regular teacher training course involving asanas, pranayam, kriya, and meditation, the first 3 books I ask the studios to get is asana, pranayam, and yogic therapy. Then, of course, the traditional text. Because our lineage is not Hatha Pradipika. Our lineage is asana. Our lineage is pranayam. Because they are a blend of practices sourced from various texts. Everyone okay? Now we move on to pranayama. I'll talk about it for 10 minutes and then we'll go into breathing diagnostics and practice. I know most of you know pranayama anyway, but we'll just try it under, slightly, perhaps you're used to your teachers, so it will be a different experience. I'm not going to talk about textual definition of pranayama because I assume all of you know it, based on Yoga Sutras or other texts like Hatha Pradipika or Giran Samhita. We'll talk about very simple definitions of pranayama. Pranayama is the training of our breath using yogic principles. And the reason I add the word using yogic principles, because if you look around the spectrum, if you look around the world, there's a term in the last few years that's popped up. It's called breath work. And then in the breath work, you have so many different kinds of breathing practices. And hence, when we say pranayama, we say training of your breath using yogic principles, because breath work is also training of your breath, but it does not use yogic principles. What is the difference between the breath work and pranayama? And again, the objective is not to put anyone down or criticize anyone, just to make a fair assessment. Pranayama as a practice has existed for thousands and thousands of years. The first reference to pranayama has been made in Kalpa Sutras, Ashwalayan Dharma Sutra, Apastambha Dharma Sutras. So pranayama exists from Vedic times, and hence the practice is validated, verified in terms of the techniques and in terms of its benefits, time after time, generations after generation. So this is something to keep in mind. Whereas the breath work, you can say, okay, it's hardly, now some of the most popular techniques of breath work, last 10 years, they've become very popular. So pranayama is a science which is validated. Now, when we define pranayama, we can define it in two ways. Pranayama as a means to an end. Pranayama as a karan. Karan and karya. Malum hai aap log ko? Karan, karya. Karan means a means. Karya means an end. So pranayama as a means pranayama for a beginner, and pranayama as an end, as a karya, means pranayama for advanced practitioners. Now, when I say there are two definitions of pranayama for a beginner and for an established practitioner, which means that pranayama is a progressive practice. ये एक प्रगतिशील अंग है योग का. So for a beginner, it is the training of the breath using yogic principles. Then perhaps the next stage in the progression, training of the breath leads to श्वास प्रश्वास का प्रशिक्षण करना. It leads to control of the breath, regulation of the breath, prana sanyam. Then the next stage of progression is retention of the breath, prana nirodha. So these are the progressive stages in pranayama, and hence Swamiji says one has to be careful when you do it. You start basically with the training, and towards the end, once you are ready, then retention has to be applied. Okay? Now, when we talk about training of the breath, how do you train our breath? How do we train our breath? Say, for example, we breathe at an average 15 times in a minute. So there are two ways available to us to train our breath. We either speed it up or we slow it down. Now, when you speed it up, yogic practices, can you name some of the yogic practices which involve speeding up your breath? Any? Kapalabhati and Vastrika, very good. And then the rest of the 7 kumbhakas, rest of the 7 pranayam are slow breathing. Everyone okay? So these are the two methods available. So slow breathing and rapid breathing. All the yogic breathing practices are based on these. Now we talk about Swami Kuvalanandaji giving us a structure. I normally write it down on a whiteboard, but since the class is big, perhaps you would not be able to see it, so I'm going to talk about it. So the complete structure of pranayam and pranayamic related practices, as per Swamiji, you have, so for pranayam, what do you do before pranayam? Before that, anyone read Hatha Pradipika? Shat Kriyas. Shat Kriyas are preparation. So they say once by doing Shat Kriyas, if you're able to, when you're able to ensure the efficient functioning of Vata, Pitta, Kapha, then you start your pranayama. Once your nadis are clean, especially the nadis that carry gross material, then pranayam should be started. So Shat Kriyas, then you have preparatory practices, pranayam. Now there are a lot of studios, especially in the West, outside of India, where you don't have the facilities to do the kriyas. And hence, from Kevaladham's perspective, in order to be compensate for that, there are 5 practices that were brought together. Udyanabandh, Agnisar, Simhasana, Jivhabandh and Brahma Mudra. They are also preparatory practices for pranayama. Now when it comes to yogic breathing, Kapalabhati is covered under Shat Kriyas. Nadi Shodhan is a slow breathing but not classified as pranayama. And then you have Ashtakumbhaka, Surya Bhedan, Ujjayi, Shitkari, Shitali, Bhastrika, Brahmari, Murcha, Plavani. Now this is the entire curriculum of pranayama. Preparatory practices, as in Shat Kriyas, or the 5 preparatory practices in absence of facilities. Kapalabhati, Kapalabhati of course is a part of Shat Kriyas, Anulom Vilom or Nadi Shodhan, and then you have the Ashtakumbhakas, 8 practices. However, in this scheme of things, because these have been scientifically and philosophically validated by Swamiji and presented in his book Pranayama, especially the Ashtakumbhakas, and Anulom Vilom or alternate nostril breathing, the technique is mentioned in yogic therapy. So Swamiji does not consider it as a pranayama. Everyone okay so far? So this being the structure of pranayama, the varieties, so slow breathing and rapid breathing being the foundation, varieties may come from either manipulating your nostrils or maybe breathing in through the mouth, making a sound when you breathe, do pranayama. But keep in mind, in pranayamic scheme of things, you do not exhale through the mouth. In no technique, exhalation is done to the mouth. So this is basically our lineage, and all we are concerned about is the way Swamiji has presented pranayama, because we know for sure it is textually and scientifically validated. I cannot confidently say that every single system of yoga or pranayama that's being offered in the world follows that protocol. Everyone okay? So now let's get into rapid breathing. Everyone knows Kapalabhati? Can anyone describe the technique of Kapalabhati? Step by step? Don't be shy. No? कोई तो बोलो भाई, बोलिए.
Sitting with the spine erect and focusing on the exhalation. Inhalation happens passively. Doing it in a rhythmic pattern.
Very good. So, if I had to sum the practice of Kapalabhati up, I would say Kapalabhati is a rapid breathing practice where the movement of the abdomen is predominant, where the exhalation is active, inhalation is passive, and the thrust for exhalation comes from below the belly button. That is a concise technique of Kapalabhati. So I presume in normal circumstances, I will go through sectional breathing or breath diagnostics. We also call it Pranayama. But I am assuming that we all know the practice. So what I'm going to do is, for the first part of Kapalabhati, rapid breathing practice, I would use the metronome. Have you used the metronome for Kapalabhati ever? And what we will do is, we will start increasing the tempo of the metronome and try to synchronize your strokes with the tempo of the metronome. And please keep in mind, if you feel tired, because the metronome is going to be on for a long time, if you feel tired, you can rest and join again. Or if you feel that the speed is too much, too fast, you can rest and fall back to the speed that's comfortable to you. But remember, try to have an attitude of a practitioner. Try to ensure the stroke is complete. What does it mean by stroke being complete? The effort comes from below the belly button, and after the stroke, your abdomen comes back to its original position. There are no partial strokes. So what I'm going to do is, we have Mika and Debashri. They will just demonstrate first. You can take a look, and then we will roll it over to the class. Keep in mind, for those of you who are under menstruation, please do not do this practice. Please begin, Mika. And again, for those online, you can, if in doubt, you can look at Mika and Debashri, who are demonstrating the practice. Please begin. So stroke originating from below the belly button. So everyone, please close your eyes. Sit upright. I normally say you don't want to sit like a question mark. You sit like an exclamation mark. Back upright. Shoulders, chest open. Don't begin yet. Just observe your breathing. A complete inhale followed by Kapalabhati exhale. Please begin. And we have Ella, Angela, and our teachers from Kevaladham. Please go and check how everyone's practicing. An inner smile on the face, no serious faces. Eyes closed. Hands on the knees and Jnana Mudra if possible. Back upright. Please pause, keep your eyes closed, breathe normal. Just be conscious of your breath. If your mind is starting to wander, bring it back to your breath. Slowly open your eyes. So just to round it up, Kapalabhati too is a progressive practice. The first requirement is that your stroke be complete. And for a stroke to be complete, number one, it originates from your lower abdomen or below the belly button. And after they exhale, the abdomen returns back to its original position. The first step of Kapalabhati is to master the stroke. Then the second stage in progression is to work on your speed. Every teacher is different. Your teacher will lead you in the right direction in these two aspects. As per Swami Kuvalanandaji, he says, the speed should be 2 strokes per second eventually, or 120 strokes per minute. An optimal dose of Kapalabhati is 3 rounds of 120 strokes at 2 strokes per minute. A reminder, if you read Swamiji's book, Pranayama, and it's just a technicality, but as students, you have to be aware of it. A round of Kapalabhati begins with an active exhale and ends with a passive inhale. Huh? Everyone okay? Does everyone have a personalized practice in Kapalabhati? How much do you guys do in your practical sessions? How much? How many strokes? How many rounds? 1 minute, 3 rounds? Okay. Everyone does the same? So let's all do 3 rounds of 120 strokes. I'm not going to... See, the reason I use metronome, eventually the metronome has to be dropped. We don't need the metronome for Kapalabhati. One of the main reasons I started using metronome is to ensure that we have a sense of the spacing between the strokes. The strokes have to be spaced right. By metronome, you train yourself to space the strokes right. Once that spacing is mastered, you drop the metronome. So let's do 3 rounds of Kapalabhati, 120 strokes each. In between each round, give yourself 5 to 10 normal breaths worth of rest. Not prolonged breath, but normal breath. Continue to be seated with your eyes closed. Everyone okay? And while you're doing Kapalabhati, your focus should be on your lower abdomen. And even in between rounds, your focus should be on your lower abdomen. After 3 rounds, please continue to be seated with your eyes closed. So please begin when ready. You guys can check. Thank you. Hands on the knees in Jnana Mudra. Back upright. The effort comes from below the belly button. Your nose is just a conduit. It's just a passage for the air to pass. Active exhale, passive inhale. That's a stroke. Number of strokes make a round. Once you're done 3 rounds, please continue to be seated. Keep your eyes closed. Be conscious of your breath. Huh? For those of you who are done 3 rounds, please continue to be seated with your eyes closed. Just observe silence with your eyes closed. Back upright, shoulders, chest open. Let go of the control of your abdomen. Free up your abdomen. For those of you who are done, and if you wish, please go into a brief Shavasana. In Shavasana, legs apart, toes out, heels in, your arms away from the body, the palms facing the ceiling, eyes closed, and let go of your control of your abdomen. Huh? Shavasana only if you want to, otherwise you can continue being seated with your eyes closed. Loosen your body up. Try to be conscious, try to be aware of your breathing. Try to feel the coolness in the air when you breathe in and the warmth when you breathe out. Please stretch nicely, sit up gently. Not abruptly. Maybe you want to turn on your side first and then try and sit up. Everyone okay? Yes? Awake? Just few points from the feedback I got from Mika. She just mentioned, please keep in mind the nose part, your nostril part, they are passive in Kapalabhati. You're not making the effort here. You're making the effort here. So this just stays the way it is. The movement happens here. This is just a passage. So please keep that in mind. It's not like, no. So, and if, sometimes what happens is, when we try to go faster, we automatically engage this. If you find that's happening, slow yourself down, reset yourself, and try to make sure the effort is coming from here. So now we move on to slow breathing practices. As I said, I'm not going to do sectional or pranayama or breath diagnostics. I presume we know the fundamentals of slow breathing. I will repeat it again. Just one point. The Hasta Mudra. Can anyone explain what Hasta Mudra we assume in pranayama? In manipulating the nostrils? But what technique? What fingers don't you use? They are rolled down, the ring and the little finger and the thumb. Now when you feel your nose, you feel there's a septum, the cartilage in the middle. And then on the top part, you have the nose bone. So you just push enough on your nostrils so that you touch the septum. The side of your thumb is held against the nose bone. By doing that, you don't have to push really hard. It's enough to seal the nostril. The other two fingers either can be kept away or on the bridge of the nose, not in between the eyebrows, but the bridge of the nose. You do the same thing with the other fingers. You can either keep your thumb away on the bridge of the nose, and that's what we do. So keep in mind, also in pranayama, it is preferred that both the nostrils be open, given that there's no external factor like sinus or allergy that's causing the inflammation of the nostril. How do you do that? What do you do to open your nostrils? Anyone? You have yoga danda? Do you guys know? So if one of the nostril is closed, you use the yoga danda against the opposite armpit, or you have these cushions, no? That you can place there. Or you can do that, just pressure under one of the armpit. But now we have yoga danda or the armpit cushions that you can use to open up the nostrils. So again, as I said, the fundamentals of slow breathing are the same. The varieties come from manipulation of the nostril. Say for example, Let's take Nadi Shodhan. Nadi Shodhan, inhale left, exhale right, inhale right, exhale left. Surya Bhedan, inhale right, exhale left. Sitkari, Shitali, Brahmari, you do both in and out or you just do out? Both, you do both. Good. Ujjayi, which one do you do? One or two? Both. Huh? Inhale both, exhale both. You do that? And then inhale both, exhale left. Bhastrika, what do you do? No, but Bhastrika, what types do you do? Okay, so that's type 2 from Hatha Pradipika. Okay, good, very good. And is your Kapalabhati happening with Saswanam or without Saswanam? Saswanam, anyone? Mukham Sayyam Nadibhyam Akrushya Pavanam Shanai Yatha Lagati Kantatu Hrudayavadhi Saswanam. The Ujjayi sound is called Saswanam sound. So again, Bhastrika is a progressive practice. Depending on what course you're enrolled in, your teacher will guide you in the right direction. But let's talk about the fundamentals of slow breathing pranayam. We will do Anulom Vilom, although it is not a pranayam in our scheme of things. And then we'll see how much time we have. Pranayam fundamentals for slow breathing. Number 1 is the posture. Eyes closed, forehead relaxed, back upright, samam kaya, shirogrivam, shoulders, chest open. This is the physical arrangement of the body. Abdomen withheld. Where should you withhold the abdomen? Swamiji says, abdomen slightly contracted. What does that mean? So when you exhale completely, your chest drops and abdomen withdraws. Just hold the abdomen until where it withdraws, engage your chest. So abdomen withheld, chest movement predominant. Flow of breath continuous and uninterrupted. How do you ensure that the flow of breath is continuous and uninterrupted, especially for new students? You create a slight Ujjayi sound, which perhaps eventually could be dropped for Anulom Vilom, Surya Bhedan, depending on what your teacher's instructions are. So flow of breath continuous, uninterrupted. Exhalation twice as long as inhalation. At any point, you should not feel air thirsty. You should not gasp for air. There should be no tension in the forehead area. Your face should be in the right direction. Sometimes the first 5 rounds of slow breathing pranayama are like this, and by the time you come to the 10th round, you're like this. You don't want to do that. Try to be conscious. Don't be obsessed by it, but try to be conscious. Now, when you train your breath in such a way, and once your inhales, exhales become effortless, once inhales are 8 seconds, exhale 16 seconds, then perhaps under the guidance of your teacher, you can introduce Kumbhaka. Or maybe your teacher is using another count, which is fine too. They know the best when Kumbhaka should be introduced. However, in general scheme of things, 8 inhale, 16 exhale, and then retention. For us, we will not do Kumbhaka, we'll just do inhale and exhale. We will do Anulom Vilom. Inhale left, exhale right, inhale right, exhale left. You don't have to count the rounds. I will just do it for minutes. Because there are 2 ways to do. In a class setting, I prefer not to do counting the rounds because everyone's capacity is different. Some people finish first and then they're waiting for the others to finish. So if you have a set time, it works good for everyone. If in your individual practice, if you're practicing by yourself, that's a different story. You can practice by rounds. Remember, as I keep emphasizing, yoga is not a mechanical practice. Mechanical practice will give you mechanical results. Maybe your breathing capacity will increase. Maybe you can hold the breath for a long time. Maybe when in asanas, if you're doing it mechanically, your shoulders might get strong, your abs might show. But is that the goal of yoga? No. It is to create a shift inside. So again, on your mat, the rule is, on your mat, for the duration of your practice, you are a sannyasi. Okay? So let's do Anulom Vilom. Maybe Mika and Debashri will also sit here and demonstrate. The others, Ella, or Angela, and others, Shalini, please, you can check. I will turn the metronome on, so that way you can count your inhales, exhales. Exhales twice as long as inhales. So for this session, I'm just doing inhale, exhale, Purak and Rechak. We are not doing any Kumbhak. That would be another session. Okay? Eyes closed. For those of you who are wearing glasses, maybe a good idea to remove your glasses. It gives you a better hold on your nostrils. Eyes closed. Back upright. Shoulders, chest open. For a brief moment, breathe freely. Observe your breath. Exhale completely. And then begin with your Anulom Vilom. Inhale left, exhale right, inhale right, exhale left. Back upright, shoulders, chest open, eyes closed, abdomen withheld, chest movement predominant. You're engaging your chest for breathing. Your nose, nostrils are secondary. The primary effort comes from your chest. Flow of breath continuous, uninterrupted, and try to be conscious of your breathing. Exhales twice as long as inhales. I will let you know when your last round is going to be. Vishnu Mudra or Pranayama Mudra is essential for this pranayama. वहाँ उनको देखो, वो हस्त मुद्रा यूज नहीं कर रहे हैं वहाँ. Back upright. Keep reminding yourself of that. Make sure your elbow is positioned right. Huh? Elbow, if it's too high, it will strain your shoulder. Make sure your head is positioned well, huh? Not tilting towards one side or the other. This would be your last round, upon which please continue to be seated with your eyes closed. Free up your abdomen. You can let go of the control. If your knees hurt, please feel free to straighten your legs. Slowly open your eyes. Back to the sitting position. We'll just do a very short duration of Ujjayi Pranayama. We'll inhale both nostrils, exhale left nostril. As per Hatha Pradipika, the inherent feature of Ujjayi Pranayama is the Ujjayi sound that is produced during inhale and also during exhale. So again, inhale both nostrils, exhale left nostril while producing the Ujjayi sound. The pranayama fundamentals are applied here. Abdomen held back, chest movement predominant, that which I listed previously. And I will let you know when your last round is going to be. Try to focus on or hone in on the sound of Ujjayi. Eyes closed, back upright, shoulders, chest open. No metronome. Please do a mental count. Please begin. A complete exhale followed by Ujjayi inhale. Inhale both, exhale left. Abdomen held back, chest movement predominant. Try to be conscious of the sound of your breath. So Ujjayi Pranayam, inhale both nostrils, exhale left nostril. दोनों नॉस्ट्रल से सांस अंदर लें, लेफ्ट से बाहर निकालें. वो एक राउंड ऑफ उज्जाई है. एंड उज्जाई का जो साउंड है, उज्जाई की जो आवाज़ है, श्वास की जो आवाज़ है, उसको सस्वनम कहते हैं. वो आवाज़ आप निकालें. इन्हेलेशन के दौरान, श्वास के दौरान और प्रश्वास के दौरान दोनों. प्राणायाम बेसिक्स स्टे, एब्डोमेन हेल्ड बैक, आपका पेट अंदर की तरफ रहेगा स्लाइटली, ज़बरदस्ती नहीं. और छाती का इस्तेमाल करें ब्रीदिंग के लिए. तो छाती की एफर्ट से ब्रीदिंग आएगी. उज्जाई साउंड, एक्सहेलेशन ट्वाइस एज लॉन्ग एज इनहेलेशन. जो लोग चेक कर रहे हैं, पीछे की तरफ थोड़ा चेक कर लें, सबको समझा कि नहीं. ध्यान रखें, आपका एल्बो तना हुआ नहीं होना चाहिए. एल्बो शुड बी डाउन. मेक श्योर इट डजंट स्ट्रेन योर शोल्डर. this would be your last round. ये आपका आखिरी round होगा. After that, please let go of the control of your abdomen. पेट को ढीला छोड़ दें. स्वच्छंदता से श्वास प्रश्वास करें. आंख बंद रखें. Keep your eyes closed. Be conscious of your breath. Now we shall do 11 Om. 11 Pranav ka jap. Keep in mind, the practice of pranayama is incomplete without Om. We will chant Om as per your own capacity. So don't wait for others to finish. Maintain a flow. Doesn't mean that everyone has to start together. After 11 Oms, please continue to be seated with your eyes closed. 11 Om करने के पश्चात आंखें बंद रखें और श्वास प्रश्वास पे ध्यान दें. 11 Oms and then silence as per your own capacity. Please inhale deep and begin. Just observe silence. Slowly open your eyes. कोई प्रश्न हो, questions हो, we'll take care of the questions now.
We had a great session today. It gave us knowledge that yoga is not just based on asana stretching, it's truly based on experience. We deeply appreciate this lecture. To enrich this dialogue further, we now welcome questions for the participants online and on-site. For the participants on-site, I request to please raise their hands first.
Don't be shy.
Namaste, sir. My question is, while doing the pranayam, especially Anulom Vilom, or we call Nadi Shuddhi, what is the importance of the mudra that we use? What would be the difference if we use some other mudra while doing the pranayam?
It's an excellent question. Excellent question. See, there's two ways you want to look at the mudra. One is the symbolism of it, and the other one is an Ayurvedic perspective. The symbolism of mudra is the reason we don't use the index finger, because it represents the ego. Middle finger we used for Ganesh Kriya. And middle finger, even in the Western terminology, is not supposed to be an auspicious finger. This is showing the middle finger. That's the conceptual aspect of it. But if you look at it from an Ayurvedic point of view, so we have 5 fingers, and the tip of each finger represents an element, and stimulating the tip of that finger also has an impact on that elemental makeup of the body. So the thumb is space, the index finger is air, the middle finger is fire, water, and earth. Now, if you're using the index finger, obviously the air element has a tendency to get disturbed. What is pranayama about? Calming down. So it is counteractive, right? It's not, it counteracts, it's not facilitating of pranayama, because you're trying to calm the air principle down, but by stimulating it, you're just doing the opposite. That's number one. Fire element. Now, what does the fire do to air? It consumes air, and hence you don't want to stimulate the fire element either. So that is the significance, although the texts don't mention that. In no text you'll find the reason why. But since yoga and Ayurveda, especially pranayama and Ayurveda, have crossed paths, the benefits of pranayama are explained based on Ayurvedic terminology. Then it becomes important we bring Ayurvedic terminology and try to explain why these fingers are not used. Make sense? ठीक है ना? और कोई? And feel free to ask in Hindi. Angrezi, no, it's not necessary to ask in English. It's okay.
Namaskar, sir.
बोलिए.
You mentioned that practice of pranayama is incomplete without the practice of pranav, om. Follow-up question, why is that? And the follow-up question, that we did not specifically discuss any technique of chanting om. Is there any the technique which is the correct technique, or there is not specific mention about?
Excellent. See, number one, as far as pranayam practice incomplete without om, that's my personal view, because pranayam is experiential in nature, and om forms an important part of the practice. When it comes to chanting om, if you look at the text, the symbol of om that we have now, om, is relatively a new symbol. In the Upanishadic times, om, if you know the Sanskrit alphabet, it was written O, 3 S hote na, 3 S, and then Ma. That means O has to be chanted for a count of 3. O, and Ma has to be chanted as far as you can go. Now, how do you chant it? So, Srimad Bhagavatam says, Tailyadhar avichinna dirgha ghanta ninadavat. Meaning, Om should flow like an uninterrupted stream of oil and resonate like the vibrations of a bell. That is the general way Om should be chanted. Okay? Did I answer your question?
To some extent, yes. But the question where I'm still confused is that why is there so much debate about if there is this correct technique? So does it specifically mean that this is the only way it has to be chanted?
No, where is the debate? Who's debating?
No, in general, I feel there has been like a problem with chanting O, U, Ma or Om or...
See, here's the thing. Have you guys taken a look at the Yoga Sutra commentary by Dr. P.V. Karambelkar? Has anyone done that? What does he say when he talks about tasya vachaka pranavaha? He gives different techniques. He says, okay, some people do om, om, om. Some people do om. We are not challenging that. What we are trying to say is, the documented technique is this. What is the strength of Kevaladham? You go by reference. We are not saying others are wrong. What we are saying, this is what is documented. And hence we follow that. There's no fight, there's no debate. And again, chanting of Om is experiential in nature. It's not a mechanical chanting. Now, upon chant, what does the text also say? Dashakrutva trishavanam masadvarga jitonalaha. You chant Om 10 times, 10 Oms, 3 times a day for a month. The result will present it to yourself. So it has to be an internal transformation. It has to be a calming down. So the proof is in the pudding. Your chanting should be a result. It should not be mechanical. The reason we chant this way is because it's mentioned in the text. Srimad Bhagavatam is an old text. I can invent so many techniques. I say, okay, chant Om, what's wrong with that? But is that, okay, anyone can do whatever they want. But if it has a textual reference, then you are steadied. If you go to a doctor, and doctor say, oh, I didn't study, I didn't go to a medical school, I did not read anything, but I just am practicing on my own. Would you go to that doctor? Why? Because that depth is not there. In the same way, in yogic culture, the texts are your foundation. That's Patanjali calls pratyaksha anumana agamaha pramana, shabda pramana is very, very important. See, for external sciences, you have journals, you have studies. For internal science, which yoga is, You need Shabda Praman. There's no other way. Your instruments can only measure so much. Okay? Make sense?
So we have two questions from online students. First question is, I have a student who is dizzy a lot during the day. She does not have low blood pressure. Can you recommend any practices?
I did not hear the first part.
Okay.
Dizzy?
Dizzy.
Dizziness. See, first of all, I'm not a medical doctor, so don't take it as a medical consultation. I'm just, whatever you do, you want to run it by the doctor first. However, in yoga, sometimes when the blood pressure, in general, not in yoga, when the blood pressure is low, it can lead to dizziness. There are other factors that are responsible for low blood pressure. Could be your iron levels, could be your hemoglobin levels. So you want to get these things checked first. Sometimes if the circulation is not fast enough, so get these things checked first. But Kapalabhati is an excellent practice which increases your circulation to the whole body, even to the brain. So it may help. So that's the only practice I would recommend. But try to go to the doctor and get and ensure that there's no serious underlying issues.
So there's one more question. While conducting a class, is it okay to make everyone do Kapalabhati? Of course, not everyone is possibly can do this, because one with the blood pressure cannot practice it. Other thing is heart conditions as well. But we have someone who has Vata Prakriti. What about that? People with Vata Prakriti.
See, here's the thing, few things to keep in mind. When it comes to Kapalabhati, there are restrictions. Menstruation and pregnancy, it's a no. With heart conditions, there's a conditional no. If someone has arrhythmia, high blood pressure, we don't want to say that Kapalabhati should not be practiced. However, if it is practiced, it should be practiced under the guidance of a qualified teacher, because the teacher may modify the practice a little bit. Perhaps strokes not as fast, perhaps strokes not as many. If, say, someone's circulation is slow and they have high blood pressure, what do? Kapalabhati is a must for them. So you modify. Rather than doing 15 breaths a minute, you do 40 breaths a minute, 50 breaths a minute. It does not impact the heart as much. As far as Kapalabhati's impact on Vata is concerned, or Vata Pravritti is concerned, Swami Kovalanandaji, in his book Pranayama, he's made a study and he says, the practice of Kapalabhati brings a lot of oxygen to the respiratory center of your nervous system. And it also eliminates a lot of carbon dioxide. So the net result is calming down of the respiratory center of the nervous system. Because our respiration is autonomic in nature. It is controlled by the respiratory center of the nervous system. So in fact, Vata people can practice it. There's no counterindication. It has a calming effect overall. And again, I will direct you to the book Pranayama by Swamiji. Read the chapter on Kapalabhati. That's where it has been mentioned. It calms the center of the nervous system, respiratory center of the nervous system down. Okay?
Any other questions here on site?
Hello. So it's the first that I practice Ujjayi, only on the left side. I want to know why and if there is any benefits on the exhalation on the left side.
See, that's a good question. The text does not explicitly mention what is the benefit, exhaling to the left side. But you get a cue from Swamiji's book, Yogic Therapy. In yogic therapy, what Swamiji has said, not Swamiji, but research has shown, that when you exhale through the right nostril, you dissipate less heat. When you exhale through the left nostril, you dissipate more heat. You lose more heat. Now, especially for a practitioner, as you must know, Swamiji has divided yogic practitioner into two categories. One is a spiritual culturist who practices yoga just for spiritual purpose. And then you have a physical culturist who practices yoga for health reasons, psychophysiological reasons. Now, what happens is, in general, pranayama has a cleansing effect, heating effect on the body. So, kaniyasi bhavat swede, in the initial stages, the outcome is excessive sweating due to heat. Now, depending on what one's Ayurvedic constitution is, or what one's stage is, whether they are Vata, Pitta, Kapha, you want to minimize the risk of excessive heating, especially with people who are of Pitta type. And perhaps, for them, this technique ends up being more useful because it's a safety mechanism where you dissipate more heat, thereby minimizing the risk of overheating. That's the only way I can look at it. Although the text has not mentioned anything.
Thank you.
Make sense?
Okay, so
Sir, you mentioned that none of the pranayamas, we breathe out through the mouth. Any specific reason behind
I
that?
don't know. In the text, there's nothing, because perhaps it doesn't serve a purpose. There's no therapeutic benefit to it. That's the only way I can think about it. As I said, the text hasn't mentioned anything. Any other question? कोई नहीं? You want to do some chanting? क्या chant करना है बोलो? भ्रुकुटी महल? हाँ? ओम स्तवन? सबको आता है? Everyone knows? Okay. If you know, close your eyes. Okay, is that okay? I have your permission? Together, huh? भ्रुकुटी महल चढ़ देख पियारे, जागे ज्योति अपारा, सोहम सोहम जपते जपते पहुँचो दशमें द्वारा, मेरुदंड में बंकनाल है, उलटी गंग कहावे, उसी गंग में सुन लो प्यारे, जो कोई घुस कर नहावे, प्रणवयान से ऊंचा चढ़ कर सुख मणिगढ़ में जावे, तन का भान भुला के वहाँ से सोहम सोहम गावे, बेहद ऊंचा ब्रह्म शिखर पे जावे ओम ध्वनि से चढ़ते चढ़ते निश्चल घुमरी आवे अपने आप अपने में निर्विकल्प निर्वाणियो शिवानंद गुरु केवल चेतन निजानंद आनंदियो भ्रुकुटी महल चढ़ देख प्यारे जागे ज्योति अपारा सोहम जपते जपते पहुँचो दशमें द्वारा।
On behalf of Kaivalya Dham and everyone present here, extend our heartfelt gratitude to Shri Sudhir Tiwari ji for sharing his time, wisdom and guidance with us in today's Yoginar on Pranayama Essentials. We are grateful to all the participants, both on-site and online, for your presence and engagement. With this, let us conclude this session by chanting together the Shanti Path. I request everyone to sit upright, gently close their eyes, join their hands in Namaskar Mudra in front of their chest. With the next inhalation, we'll chant the mantra. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you very much. Namaste.